Welcome to another Pneuma of Now podcast with Richard Blankenship and his dog Rockwell. So I'm setting up the recorder, I'm making some coffee. It's going to be some noises, but hopefully not too bad. I just hit the record button because I have a goal today. Let's see, it's 9:30 in the morning. I'm waking up, going to get caffeinated, and I'm going to try to show everybody what that sounds like. And we can talk about sound, and I'll be talking to my dog. This is just a mind-mapping journey of the mental realms, pre-coffee and post-coffee. We can talk about cool stuff. I don't really have an itinerary, but I've been very inspired by a few people that I've been connected with recently. It's really hard for me to keep my thoughts of others anonymous, but I will do the best I can. I've been known to drop the bomb on accident, which it's fine. But right now I'm working in a studio that doesn't allow me to, I don't have editing software, so everything I'm doing is pretty much feels like I'm live on the radio. And it's basically one take, leave it or take it. Take it or leave it. I'm writing a Facebook comment to somebody, and this somebody says, gives us a short critique of somebody's writing, and they say, can anyone explain why Juliet Carter uses more word fluff than an author being paid per word? Literally no reason to make something so incredibly simply complex and convoluted vocabulary. So, and then he says, that's precisely what makes me distrust the template site. So I don't know anything about the template site, the template portal. And so when this gentleman speaks to the word fluff, it's stuff like this. And I actually enjoy it, but I have to take my time with it to understand, okay, is this word fluff? Or is this somebody with a hyper awareness and hyper articulation? And maybe that's their creative realm. So the question I'm asking myself, based on this comment, is how do you balance the scales of creativity with words and language and articulation and all that stuff when we're writing? As a writer, I want to create something that has a unique energy signature to it. And I lean towards probably overcomplication. And then I edit and I try to simplify, but somewhere in that process, I'm always sitting there in the back of my head, why am I trying to dumb this down? And that's just one way of saying it. There's also this notion that I'm going to talk about at some point at length, and it's the notion of a hope dealer. Excuse me. So, the idea of I'll get into the hope dealer in just a minute because that's part of my comment. But this temple site has stuff like this. Everything is code. You are code. Your reality is code. The code is in the forms of frequencies, resonating, cymatic, EM waves. The source of the code emanates from the Mahagaya, the magia. Tantra of creation as primordial, subtle impulse of electricity and magnetism. These two waveforms of energy manifest as geometric forms. Form is the manifestation of consciousness. The more you take from DNA, the more form translates into consciousness. The human biocomputational system is poised, birthed, at the center of a toroidal hypersphere of electromagnetic frequencies from the heart. Everything you see, hear, touch, taste is transmitting an electromagnetic frequency code. The function of frequency is to reach out for a like frequency with which to resonate. through the feedback between your frequency and the frequency that is being transmitted by the matrix, the infrastructure of your reality is established through resonance. The range this infrastructure is able to manifest is predetermined by a variety of systemic inhibitors, including the modification of the human blueprint. The modification of your blueprint code ensures a limited spectrum of the source code that is active, and this restricts your frequency. Your awareness and the spectrum of that which you are able to perceive as your reality, this reflects the degree of the activity code within your blueprint. A modified blueprint manifests a modified reality. Any architect will attest to that. To grasp this is essential to being conscious of your process, as your process is entirely influenced by this. Forewarned is forearmed. By realizing the nature of the predetermined limitations that control the range of your consciousness, you begin to identify the true nature of these limitations as being matrix constructs. This reality is a looping system of entropy based on fixed axioms of causality. It had been engineered by the manipulation of the higher physics of creation to form an adulterated paradigm in a deviant portal zone. The solution will not be found at the level at which it is being engineered. The geometric and spoken code that reconnects a circuit formulates and transmits a frequency that is a resonant field signature specific to a dormant aspect of the self-referencing code within your blueprint. Each circuit you reconnect delivers a spectrum of electromagnetic data, a fractal of the source code. The extent of this source code, the body's biocomputational system is able to decipher and integrate the more the endocrine system is able to decipher and utilize the code. The more that system is rejuvenated, the more it is capable of deciphering. It's an ever-expanding cycle of restorative, self-referencing reconstruction. Okay, so this is from the temple.org, Juliet Carter. It's the first time I've ever come across this information. So I really don't have a lot to say one way or the other than there's some word fluff. And the word fluff, as a writer, is something I deal with. I don't know how to balance the scales of my own transmission from this like hyper abstract metaphorical realm. So extra words just means extra description, and we can go into the whole electromagnetic thing, and we can kind of tap into that language and terminology in a lot of different ways, and I've found ways that I prefer to do that I won't get into just right now. But my comments so far, I'm not done, haven't pushed reply, but I like to think these things out and really think them out. So I say I appreciate the assessment here, and as I'm not familiar with this work, I can't help but fear you may have a similar outlook on my own creative processes. I can't know that with any certainty, but I get the point. I'm led to ask a most confounding question since my work doesn't fit any mold, and I've been accused of the same word fluff by reviewers. How does one balance these scales of transmissions when the heartfelt aim is to become a hope dealer? Hope dealers remove emotion, stick with the facts, use simple language, and demonstrate accountability for their actions and tap into a God-forced power of truth. I lean into the overly complex expression when it avails itself, if only to me, trusting that the art of pulling imaginary thoughts into physical manifestation, stamped in time and in the electronics configurations of data saved and shared and silently moved into the field awareness of another. So yeah, I think I have a run-on sentence here, but that often happens when you can't see the full text of your thought at once. So I guess that last part, like trusting the art of pulling imaginary thoughts into physical manifestations, stamped in time and in the electronics configurations of data saved and shared and silently moved into the field awareness of another. Okay, well, it makes sense to me. And again, yeah, probably a little bit of word fluff. But the word fluff is not there unconsciously for me. I have a lot of interesting phrases that I've put into my head over the years, and I like to extrapolate from other people's work. And yeah, it's always a battle for me when I'm writing my sentences and my chapters. And when I feel like I'm really firing on all cylinders, there's just a lot of data trying to be transmitted to the page or with the voice, and there's just never enough room to really capture the glistening gold of that original impulse. You know, I'm going to invoke this phrase like slivers from the shard. You know, there's absolute truth, but we're all just refractions of that truth through personal experience. So the light of truth refracts through our individual lenses and perceptions, and we just get shards and glimmers of the truth. It doesn't mean that our truth isn't valuable or worthy to be shared. It just always means it's lacking. It always is less than the absolute. And then this leads us into the notion that we must honor everybody's unique individuality. We must honor their diversity, culturally, mentally, historically. We have to accept and allow other people to teach us the knowledge and wisdom deep within them that only they can know. So that's kind of the point I'm getting at with that. Again, we're doing a Saturday morning podcast. I'm just finishing up my coffee here. I got to make some alchemical adjustments with some chemicals like sugar and creamer and all that jazz. And I know all that stuff sucks and it's not great for the body. But it sure is good for the mind, and it's good for me to just put into perspective. Everything is about balance. Not too much sugar, not too little, just enough to scintillate the taste buds, because black coffee is just boring. I want to spice up my Saturday. Try to do, I guess my goal is just to keep recording these podcasts. I took a week off. I got to see my little boy. Hadn't seen him in a long time. It was beautiful, beautiful week, beautiful experience. So I've got my son in the background. You know, I always talk about there being countercurrents and, you know, a whole sphere of thinking that takes place behind the scenes while I'm recording. And it's just fascinating to watch. And yeah, I'm not sure what I'm doing here. I gotta stir up my coffee and then we'll be off to the races. I'm gonna get my notepad. I wrote down some interesting things. You know, that concept of the hope dealer, I don't even know where I saw that. I don't think it's mine. I may have added to it or something. I mean, I'm going to have to do my research. But I just have some notes that talk about a hope dealer. And you know, a hope dealer removes emotion, sticks with the facts, uses simple language, demonstrates accountability for actions, and then this idea of God-force power of truth. So within this God force power of truth, I also sometimes say soul force energy. You know, really, really getting into ourselves at a soul level and moving from that space being connected intimately with the heart. Nothing new there. But I ask people to really sit with these ideas and really feel into it. Like, when's the last time you moved about the world with the center, which is this heart chakra, the center chakra? When have you found yourself moving into those spaces? I know for a fact I've moved in and out of those phases my entire life in different places, different times, different circumstances. But I have recognized these moments as well, the difference, been able to inspect. And I've got just this super cute chipmunk that I get to watch. And it's raining here. So I'm watching this chipmunk here through my window. And just, always taking a moment to reconnect with nature and, praise God for the creation. All the diversity that we see. It's just beautiful, sitting with that. Got squirrel on one side, chipmunk on another. The chipmunk is just tiny compared to this squirrel. I'd hate for them to not be friends, but I kind of like to think they're all friends. Another thing I like to point out is, what is it? Is it November 14th, 2020? So for me, it's raining here. The weather's just starting to get a little colder. It's not cold right now. It's 64 degrees. But a cool, dark, rainy day. And there's something about the cleansing aspect of the rain that activates me. It basically does the opposite of what some people report as, being depressing and glum, doom and gloom. It doesn't do that to me. Even after like a week or two, I don't know. It just allows me a different headspace of creativity and expression, introspection, intronaut. It's not, the quest for me is not to become an astronaut. We are already on spaceship Earth. In my mind, we are already astronauts. So a lot of the things we wish to be as children, we already are. And so I'm more on the path of intronaut, the internal game. Understanding things from the know thyself perspective, self-wisdom, self-mastery, building emotional intelligence, building Jacob's ladder, using the trivium of grammar, logic, and rhetoric, and then the quadrivium. I'm still looking into all that so I can subdivide knowledge sets, what I call the nested knowledge sets. There's different hierarchies and bubbles of governing laws, and we can start to pick these things apart within ourselves and within the natural world. So all these things fascinate me, and all these podcasts are trying to do is to energize something within you that awakens an awe-filled experience. I want you to be awe-full, but in the idea that we are full with awe and wonder. I like the idea that the word wonder kind of sounds like one door. And I had my project iDoor, which is basically just an idea that's never launched of anything, but I wrote a little bit of a mission statement. But I got the name from the Phoenician alphabet, because of the circle being an eye and the triangle being a door. And when you do the circle with an inscribed triangle within the borders, an equilateral triangle, then we have an abstract and intuitive grasping to how energy propagates through time. You know, the whole idea of a Holy Trinity, I believe, is manifest in the physical world, in the spiritual world, in the mental and emotional world. And I've still got further to do as far as mapping that out for people. A lot of the standard cliches apply here, like Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Mother, Father, Child. You know, every single tradition has a triad, a tripod of understanding. There's something useful about that. We can develop a mental mnemonics, and I have a lot of work on the mental mnemonics, whether it is to help me memorize mathematical formulations or just to help me understand my own inner partition. What is this Richard all about? I have a body. I have thoughts. I have feelings. I have yearnings and desires. I have curiosities. I have dreams into other portals. I mean, when you go to dream, it's a portal. It's a gateway. So I'm always talking about dreams. I just love remembering my dreams and learning to amplify that power within people. I've had some just amazing experiences that just lend me to belief that we are eternal beings and I'm incarnated. Our bodies are vehicles, so we incarnate, but that our soul is somehow is the thing that we nurture in the earth realm. And when we nurture the soul to such an extent, you can move up the rungs of Jacob's ladder and consciousness, different spheres of consciousness and different hierarchies within the universal fields. We don't see the full picture. Our five senses are limiting. I like to have that discussion about maybe we have five senses and the sixth sense somehow connects us with this portal that on the other side gives us 354 more senses so that we actually become full spectrum species or full spectrum sensing. So I don't know. I roll around a lot of these ideas for you to contemplate and for you to help me with. You know, we're doing this together. We're having these conversations together. Everyone's got their sliver of truth. I don't think I understood how difficult it was going to be to archive my thoughts without notes, without a script. And that's part of my own challenge here. Is to get comfortable with my own thoughts and my own thinking to such an extent that I don't have any weird feelings about sharing it on the internet for the entire world to see. We're just in that place where we have an opportunity to be our unique selves. And that might be the challenge, that might be the test, is how do we exit the matrix while staying true to ourselves? And when I say the matrix, I also mean the system and the words and the legalities and the languages and the thought forms that have been indoctrinated to us our whole lives. I'm dismantling from that as much as possible, and it's difficult, it's slow, it's painful, it's deconstructive, it's destructive. So yeah, it's vulnerable. I want to mention real quick this notion of relationships. You know, we have to grow up and mature at some point, and we have to learn to have mature and healthy relationships. And I think the world needs an education on this. I think I need an education on this. So there's not so much instruction from me to you here. I'm just revealing to others my own process and hoping that maybe somewhere along the line you'll find something that really clicks in with the energy of your being that will help you shift into desired directions with the forward momentum that we are all after. You know, the unrestricted visioning. And so as far as relationships are concerned, I've been studying a book called How to Be an Adult in Relationships. Yeah, real sexy title. The 5 Keys to loving, Mindful Loving. Okay, and the 5 keys are the 5 A's. We have attention, acceptance, appreciation, affection, and allowing. Now I'm just going to touch the surface here real quick. I'm not going into this book specifically. I just want to introduce the 5 A's. Attention from others leads to self-respect. Acceptance engenders a sense of being inherently a good person. Appreciation germinates a sense of self-worth. Affection makes us feel lovable. Allowing gives us the freedom to pursue our deepest needs, values, and wishes. So yeah, this book is drawing on the Buddhist concept of mindfulness and explores 5 hallmarks of mindful loving and how to play a key role in our relationships throughout life, and how they play a key role. In inspiring and encouraging terms, this book shows us how a handful of steadfast commitments can lead to mature and lasting relationships. Adult love is based on a mutual dedication to granting attention, acceptance, appreciation, affection, and allowing. These are the doorways to the joys and wealth of relationship. But too often we don't grasp what these words really mean and don't know how to fully manifest them in our relationships. Brimming with practical exercises for couples and singles, How to Be an Adult in Relationships offers heartening insights into the lifelong journey of love, from childhood to adulthood, from dating to breakups. Topics include becoming conscious of patterns in our relationships, recognizing and attracting adult love, understanding the major phases of relationships, maintaining healthy boundaries as we become increasingly intimate, overcoming fears of abandonment or engulfment, expressing anger and other emotions in adult ways, surviving breakups with your self-esteem intact, understanding love as a spiritual and heroic journey. David Riccio, PhD, is a psychotherapist who leads popular workshops at the Esalen Institute and around the country. He is the author of several books, including How to Be an Adult and Shadow Dance, Liberating the Power and Creativity of Your Dark Side. He lives in Santa Barbara and San Francisco, California. I actually like this book. I have not gotten all the way through it. I'll save that for another podcast. I like to drop these seeds, and then when I moved to actualize and to reap the harvest, I'll hit the record button. So something in there that I want to back up to something I said a minute ago. The doorways, the wonder, the one door, the all-where. We want to install an all-where into our being. It really is helpful. It's just one of my concepts. It's really just taken me and my particular journey into really great heart-based landscapes. Okay, well, I'm going to sign off for now, and I'll be back with another half hour as soon as I've taken some coffee. Love my coffee. Peace profound in the Pneuma of now.